Nothing is forever. After growing spiritually from living a negative experience has changed my person. And upon returning to a place, I remember of everything that happened. Like sometimes I get caught up in the situation that I find myself in, and like I get emotionally attached and I forget to go out and get some fresh air. I forget that I can, space out and, um, look at my problem from a distance and not get so emotionally attached. I forget about that, because I'm living the experience, because it's a problem, because it's agitating, because it's in my face, and like I said, I forget to go out and grab a fresh, some fresh air. you know I forget, that I could open up a window. I forget that, I could go out and smoke me a cigarette. I forget that I could go out and space out, and think about what's happening, you know. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I've lived so many messed up situations, and when I find myself in the situation, there's always people talking down at me, threatening me almost constantly. You know, Yesterday there is this kid, and he was like, "It's my birthday," and I was like, "Okay," and he's like, what are you gonna give me for my birthday? And well, I hardly know him, so I was like, pues I don't have any money. And he was like, all right then, fine. And I was like, what? Like, I told you I don't have any money. I told him happy birthday, right? I go, hey, well, happy birthday. But like I said, there's negative people everywhere. You know what I'm saying? That there's negative people everywhere, and that, how would you say it? That I get caught up in the situation. I get caught up with the noise. I get caught up with the negativity that's there, the vibe of negativity that's there, and that's constantly waiting. The negativity is on, the noise, the drama, everything is on, and they're just waiting for you to get emotionally attached, for you to get emotionally attached. And you can feel it, how little by little you get emotionally attached, how you start to get mad, how you start to express yourself in a negative manner, yelling. You can feel it. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost like, was it's really weird to feel yourself getting emotionally attached. Like, there's times where I wouldn't even notice, like I just got emotionally attached. I got mad, I expressed myself, and then I start to reflect. No, now I feel it. It has happened to me so much that as soon as I start to feel like getting mad, because it has happened to me so much that I recognize I'm getting emotionally attached. I'm getting emotionally attached, and I could feel it. And so, what I wanted to say was that in situations, while I'm living the situation, it always seems so dramatic. You know what I'm saying? And upon leaving, like it's almost like I've gone into, when living on the street, I've gone into numerous groups, numerous AA groups. I call them homeless shelters, because homeless shelters don't exist. They only have these, rehabilitation programs that are out there. There is no homeless shelters in Mexico. And so, um, I get so caught up in the situation, but as soon as I leave the rehab, as soon as I leave that homeless shelter, I feel so much better. I feel like, immensely different, you know. I feel like, they were feeding me therapy. They were trying to get me to do this. They were trying to get me to do that. And you step out of that program, out of that rehab, out of that homeless shelter, and I always feel better. I always feel like this this weight lifted up off my shoulders. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing with the situations that I live wherever I've gone to. I get so caught up, so emotionally attached that I forget that it's just a bunch of noise. That I forget that once the situation is over, you know, I'm going to get past it. That it will just be an experience, a small memory, and nothing more. When I was locked up, I just kept telling myself, man, I feel like I'm never going to get out. You know, 2 years and 3 months. I felt like I was never going getting out, you know. And right now, because they're memories. 2 years, 3 months, a couple of memories. That's it. And so what I'm saying is that when I go back to these places, when I go back to, these places that I've lived, negative situations, you know, you can feel the spiritual growth. You can feel like, I can't believe how I was getting mad. I can't believe like I went through that. I can't believe that they treated me in that manner. I can't believe that that happened, you know. And you feel like a growth, a spiritual growth in you when you go back to a place, where they try to do you wrong, where they try to, get you emotionally attached, where they try to create negative situation after negative situation. You go back to a place like that and you feel awesome. You feel awesome. You feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like a victor, Like, hey, you know what? I was here before. I made it out of this place. You know what? The people that were here are no longer here anymore. They're gone. And you can feel it, man. You can feel it when you go back to a place. You can feel it, man. The sensation of spiritual growth, you know. And that just goes to show that if you find yourself in a negative situation, don't get emotionally attached. Focus on the future because all that negativity will soon pass. It'll fade.